We are all in the holiday spirit, so in today's video, I want to talk about every single team's Christmas wish list. But if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's just hop into it. So as I mentioned, we're going to be doing every single team's Christmas wish list. These are things that every single fan of these teams want for their team moving forward. You guys will kind of get the point of this video as we go along. We're going to be doing this by division, beginning with the AFC East and ending with the NFC West. I'll have everything time-stamped in the timeline, so if you guys want to kind of move around to your favorite division, you could do so, but I suggest just watching the full video. With that said, again, we're going to start off with the AFC East and begin with the Buffalo Bills. For the Buffalo Bills and all their fans, this one is very obvious. This team's wish list is to win a Super Bowl. This is their Super Bowl window right now. They have about maybe 2 to 3 years with this window being open with this current roster, so obviously right now they want to win a championship. Next is the Miami Dolphins. Now, there's a lot of things this fan base could be asking for, but I think the biggest thing this team wants to do is just beat a good team. Point blank, period. Whether it's this year or next year, just go out there and beat up on a good playoff contender. I think that's their best wish. Next, for the New England Patriots, this one is quite simple. Drake May is a star franchise quarterback, so you don't need a quarterback. But what does a quarterback need if he wants to be successful? A true wide receiver one. That is the New England Patriots Christmas wish. And lastly, the New York Jets. We all should know what the Christmas wish list is here. We know the New York Jets just want a good quality head coach. You have a lot of the good pieces. You have Sauce Gardner, Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, but it just feels like the coaching staff has never been there. This team with a good coaching staff could actually be something good. Obviously, I thought Robert Saleh was going to be the guy. That wasn't the case. So this team, get them a good quality head coach, aka Ben Johnson, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up, let's talk about the AFC North and begin with the Baltimore Ravens. I think there's a lot of things this team could wish for. A Super Bowl, an AFC conference win, so on and so forth. But I think if there was one thing this team would really like to have right now is Mike Macdonald to come back. This one won't happen, so if you want a secondary one, winning a Super Bowl. But if Mike Macdonald could come back, that would be really nice because this defense just has not looked the same. Sticking to some defense here, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, and this one is quite simple. Having a good defense. If this Bengals team had a good defense, this team would be not only a playoff contender, but an actual Super Bowl contender. With Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow playing as good as they are, if they just had a somewhat competent defense, this team would be awesome. But because of the struggling defense and because the offense just cannot carry this team, they're now probably not going to make the playoffs, which is honestly sad. Next up, the Cleveland Browns. This has been on their wish list for probably the last 20-30 years, a franchise quarterback. I can't honestly tell you the last time that this team actually had a solidified starting franchise quarterback. Maybe you could have called Baker Mayfield one, but they traded him away pretty quickly for Deshaun Watson because they thought he was the guy. That wasn't the case. With the recent loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, maybe the Browns are in a position to potentially take a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders, who maybe could be that guy. Next, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this one, in my opinion, is pretty obvious. Their biggest Christmas wish list is a true wide receiver two next to George Pickens, maybe a Luther Burden or an Isaiah Bond or somebody like those guys. They need somebody next to George Pickens to really open up this passing attack because I do think Russell Wilson has been good. I think the offensive line could use some work, but having a nice wide receiver two next to George Pickens would be amazing. But let's move on to the AFC South, and we are going to begin with the Houston Texans, and the biggest thing on their wish list is having a good offensive line. CJ Stroud is a good quarterback. You have a lot of really good outside weapons, though Tank Dell is injured, so we'll have to wait and see how he looks. The defense is really good. Having a good offensive line would really make this team an awesome team. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts, and this one is very simple. Their biggest wish for Christmas is very simple. They want Anthony Richardson to be good. Point blank simple. If Anthony Richardson is a good quarterback and their franchise guy, this team can do a lot of nice things because I think his potential is unlimited, but it's a bit up right now in the air. We'll have to wait and see if he can turn out to be the guy. Next up, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, their biggest wish for Christmas is Travis Hunter. Having a guy who can play both wide receiver and cornerback and just being somebody who can bring so much energy and juice to this franchise. Travis Hunter is their biggest need, and I think he'd be an awesome fit. Then we go to the Tennessee Titans, and similar to the Cleveland Browns, this franchise hasn't really had their franchise quarterback for a while. So for the Tennessee Titans, their biggest wish, having a franchise quarterback, because I don't think Will Levis will be the guy. Then we move on to the AFC West, and we are going to begin with the Denver Broncos. This is a really good team that does have a couple holes. If I had to pick one thing for the Denver Broncos and what their fans would really wish for, it would be for a wide receiver 1 or 2 alongside Courtland Sutton. Whether it is a Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, or somebody in free agency, they could just really use somebody alongside Sutton to really open up this passing attack for Sean Payton and for Bo Nix. Next up for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is like those guys, those little kids out there that are just so spoiled rotten. They have a mansion, they have a 1,000 square feet room, they have their own cars already set up. That is what the Chiefs are dealing with here, so we're just going to continue to spoil the rich. For the Kansas City Chiefs, their biggest wish is for a three-peat. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not going to overthink this one. A franchise quarterback. This team has been so desperate for one ever since they got rid of Derek Carr. They need to get one soon. And lastly, the LA Chargers. For me, you have Justin Herbert. Obviously, Ashton Genty would be amazing. But for this team, having a true wide receiver 1 has to be on the top of their list. You pair a wide receiver 1 with Herbert, Ladd McConkey, and Quentin Johnston. This offense could really open up to be awesome. But that concludes the AFC. Let's now move on to the NFC, beginning with the NFC East. And my biggest and first thing that came to me immediately was the Dallas Cowboys fans' biggest wish is for Jerry Jones to retire. He's been one of the most vocal leaders out there of a franchise. I don't think all the decisions he makes are bad, but there's also been a bunch of really questionable moves out there. I do know of a couple names that could be potentially the new GM/owner of the team, but I'll keep it shush for now. Next up, the New York Giants. Again, not going to overthink this one. A franchise quarterback, point blank simple. Give Malik Neighbors, Shador, or Cam Ward, or somebody like that. And the Philadelphia Eagles, very, very simple as well. All the talent is there. I think the coaching staff is pretty good. Their biggest thing, winning a Super Bowl. Moving to the Washington Commanders, this year has been awesome for the Washington Commanders. One of their best years, and probably a lot of Commanders fans' favorite years, basically, honestly, ever, or at least for a long time. For them, I think they're a little bit good right now. So really the only thing they could wish for maybe be like a good dominant pass rusher alongside what they already have on that D-line. Next up, the NFC North, beginning with the Chicago Bears. A lot of things that Bears fans should be wishing for: an offensive line, this, and that. But I think the number one thing that this team has to get right, and a lot of Bears fans would agree with me on this one, getting a good head coach, aka Ben Johnson. Next up, the Detroit Lions. Unfortunately, I don't know if this wish could come true, but their biggest wish, just be healthy. That is it. Just become healthy. Aiden Hutchinson, please come back. Then we move on to the Green Bay Packers, and their fan base has to feel pretty happy about where this team is at. You got your franchise quarterback, you have your head coach. I think now what you want to see is a deep playoff run that ends in an AFC Championship win or loss. Just make the NFC Championship game this year, and I think a lot of Packers fans will feel very happy about the progress this team has made. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings. Not a lot of things to complain about this season. I guess you could maybe say getting JJ McCarthy back healthy and him panning out to be the franchise quarterback, but I'm going to take a bit of a different route here. I'm just looking at what this team can be moving forward, and I think the number one thing this team could need is a future running back 1. Aaron Jones is 30. I don't know how long his contract is, but he's 30. Eventually, the tires will kind of fall off here. Going out there and getting a top-tier running back would be really nice for this franchise. Then we begin the NFC South, beginning with the Atlanta Falcons. For this team, it's pretty obvious that this team needs a dominant pass rusher ASAP. Whether that is a James Pierce Jr. or somebody else, this team just desperately needs somebody that can get the quarterback down. Moving to the Carolina Panthers, this year has been pretty good for the Panthers. They've seen a lot of progress, though. There's a lot of things that this team does need, but I think the biggest thing that this team wants to see is a big jump from year 1 to year 2, now to year 2 to year 3 with Bryce Young. We expect a big Bryce Young improvement from year 2 to year 3. I think he's been pretty good in year 2 so far. Let's see if he can take a big jump in year 3. Then we have the New Orleans Saints, and I think all Saints fans will agree with me on this one. This team needs a complete reset. Fix the salary cap, cut some veterans, tank, just be as bad as you can. Honestly, Spencer Rattler could be your starting quarterback next year, and I think a lot of Saints fans will feel really happy about that. And lastly, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think their biggest wish list is for Liam Cohen, their offensive coordinator, to stay. Whether it is as coordinator or head coach, just make sure he is a Buccaneer next year. And then we talk about our last division with the NFC West, beginning with the Arizona Cardinals. And I think their number one wish list is for Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals to take a big jump from year 2 now to year 3. We saw a pretty sizable jump from year 1 to year 2. A big reason why is because of the health of Kyler Murray. Now let's see a bigger jump from year 2 to year 3. You missed the playoffs this year. Next year, go out there and make the playoffs. Next up, the LA Rams. This team is a bit of a weird one because offensively speaking, they have a lot of old guys. I think if there was one thing this team would love to have is an answer for who their future quarterback one will be, whether it's through the draft or somebody in free agency. I'll just throw this out there. Maybe you go out there and try to get JJ McCarthy from the Minnesota Vikings. I'm just throwing it out there. Next, for the 49ers, a lot of things went wrong this year, but I think their biggest hope and thing that is on their Christmas wish list is that 2024 was nothing more than injuries and fluke, and that in 2025, they'll return to the team that they usually are. And the last thing on my Christmas wish list, this time for the Seattle Seahawks, their Christmas wish list is that Mike McDonald can turn around this defense in year number 2 and become a dominant defense. But you guys let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite team and what is their Christmas wish list, as well as Merry Christmas to you guys. Hopefully, maybe you guys are watching this on Christmas. If not, Christmas Eve, whenever. Hopefully you guys enjoy the holidays. And if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. And I love you guys. Peace.